from the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Glad you are with us tonight. We are giving you some good advice tonight. This is an opportunity for you to call in with questions about a very specific situation. How do you plan for getting older? How do you plan financially for getting older? And what if you are caring for an aging parent, an aging loved one? How do you help them go through that and the financial part of that especially? So we're talking elder care law tonight. This is a show where it's always good if people call in with some experience that they are going through, certainly some question that they have, because chances are there are many others that are in that same scenario. Are you caring for an aging loved one? Are you looking for nursing homes? That kind of thing. So very happy to have with us Barbara McGinnis, joining us via Zoom from her offices up there in Hendersonville at Takacs McGinnis. Barbara, thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for letting me be a part of it tonight. And thank you for letting us continue to do it from Zoom, via Zoom. It's so easy.
Yes, I bet, instead of driving and everything. All right. So
it's a great intro, Ben.
Well, thank you. I always like to start with define elder care law, just so we're all on the same page. I tried to define it there a little bit, but how do you define elder care law?
You did a great job. So elder care law does obviously have a estate planning component, right? You certainly need the legal documents to help frame and give you support to meet the objectives that you want as you get older, traveling that elder care continuum. Our practice does not involve really doing much with Social Security disability or SSI. It really is about older people on the elder care continuum. How are they meeting their personal care needs, their ability to stay at home, stay in control of their lives? How are we paying for those elder care needs, whether it's caregivers coming in the house or seeking assisted living placement? And then the personal care component. So in our firm, we deal with all three things: the legal, the financial, and the care component.
And how often do you have a situation like I described at the top of the show where someone comes in and they're worried about their aging parents? How often is that the kind of client that you're talking about?
All the time. In fact, I had a call earlier today with someone. It was a really pretty sad situation. Parent dies out of state. The surviving parent was ill and not able to care for themselves, and they had to make a very quick trip several thousand miles away to pick up this parent, bring them to Tennessee so they could be cared for. And on top of all that grief and tragedy and chaos and commotion, find there's no legal documents in place. Do not know where the keys to the car is, do not know where any sort of estate planning documents, where money is or where money's going, and they know that bills are coming in because they saw the stack of mail on the table kind of thing. So a lot of that could have been avoided. It would have still been a tragic situation losing a parent, but it could have been a little more organized and less chaos if there had been estate planning documents in place, like powers of attorney with successor agents. I can imagine that a married couple, you'd want to name each other as your decision-making agent, but why not have a competent adult child or children to be the backup plan, right? So that business of the surviving spouse could continue right on uninterrupted. And sharing enough information so that people can pick up. In this instance, the parent that passed away did not want to share anything prior to death, did not want to share information about banking or finances in any kind of way. And while I can appreciate that's private information, you still may want to let somebody know where to find that information if they needed it. So you don't really want to tell anybody how much money you've got in the bank while you're alive. That's okay. That's your business. But maybe give them a clue as to where to find that information when they pass. You know, we all think we're going to live forever, but that's hasn't been the case yet.
No, it hadn't been the case yet.
We're just,
Yeah, that's very interesting. And that goes to this situation where planning like this is a gift for those who stay behind. Obviously, we're not going to be here. You know, when we're gone, you know, it's not our problem. But it's a gift for our kids and for the next generation that there's not just unabashed chaos in the ensuing aftermath. And so you want to ease people through that as much as possible. So that's one reason to do it. And then,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and so what about that? I mean, you want to avoid chaos. That's one reason to do this.
Right. And of course, then what I say, some of this pre-planning, like just having your powers of attorney in place, the durable general, so that business of a person can go right on, banking, bill pay, real estate transactions, paying taxes, those sort of things. And the healthcare power of attorney, which allows someone to make medical decisions for you. If you put those two documents in place, you are putting together a plan to avoid court intervention, conservatorships. And that's those documents are so easy to do. Now, it's easy to do as long as you have people in your life you trust. If you don't have any support people, if you don't have a spouse, you don't have children, you don't have siblings, it becomes a little more difficult thinking about who to name in those spots. But the actual action of creating documents, not difficult and not terribly expensive.
And then the other aspect of this is, somebody suddenly their parents are aging and they can't care for themselves, and they want, how do they deal with that financially? How is that next step? Long-term care in some way? Maybe it's assisted living, maybe it's even more. How do you pay for that? How does all that work? And so how can you help people with that? What are those kind of situations? How do you help people with that?
Right. So pre-planning is great. Putting those legal documents in place is a great step because much less expensive than having to go to court. But then when we're starting to need care at home, we can hire privately. If you've really done some pre-planning and you have long-term care insurance, you can tap into your long-term care insurance for home. But a lot of times people are looking for that home and community-based support program through the Medicaid or TennCare program here in Tennessee. And that's one of the things that we help people do. If that's appropriate, they meet the medical necessity criteria and the financial criteria. In Tennessee, you have to be pretty dependent, pretty sick, and of course the financial standards are rigid as well. The income limits as well as the asset limits. But planning for a couple is much easier and less scary than people think. So I think a lot of times people think they have to be completely impoverished to be able to access these benefits. And there is a lot we can do, especially for a married couple, to help preserve assets and protect the home, protect this.
And what I'm also getting at this, again, if you're caring for a mom or dad, and you're worried about how much longer you're going to be able to do that, or how much longer they're going to be able to stay in their home, what are the kind of things you should be looking at? And I guess financially, what are the kind of things you should be looking at? If you're caring for an aging parent, you also have a job, and you've got a lot going on. What are the things? How could you help them? What are the questions those people in that situation are going to ask, and how can you help?
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about for tonight is we're getting into another big holiday season where families are going to be getting together. They might not have seen each other for a while, but identifying when that family member is starting to need some help. If you think about care on a continuum, that if you're independent, you don't want too much care or too much intervention too soon. But a lot of times children think about family members needing care way earlier than what that elder person wants care to be received. But things that you should start looking for is big signs that care may be needed. Of course, is personal appearance. Are they clean, neat, well-groomed? Are they wearing the same clothes every day when you're visiting? That's a big sign. Are the clothes dirty with spots on them? And can the person see that? And do they know that? So their personal hygiene, how are they managing the toilet and the facilities in the toilet? Are we sort of missing the mark there? Are we managing that? How does the house smell? How does the person smell? Is there any stacks of unopened mail or lots of piled up laundry? Those are some real good clues that they're not managing well at home by themselves anymore. I mean, real indicators that we're starting to not manage well. And food supplies. Is there appropriate food in the home? How are they managing to get food? Talked to a son this week about his mom. He was thinking she might need to start getting care, hasn't driven for years. And I say, how does she get food in her house? He said, well, I think one of her neighbors goes and gets her groceries. Well, that's one of those things you really kind of want to nail down. How's mom getting food in the house? Or what are we ordering takeout food every night kind of thing? So planning ahead, looking for when they need support. Parents are going to be using their own funds for the initially, of course, they're going to be using, and I do advise them to be using their own funds. Let's keep the children's money with the children as long as possible. Don't start paying prematurely for care when mom and dad have their own money. They have their own income, they have their own savings. They may have qualified money like IRAs or 401ks that they can withdraw extra money for. You know, we all know about required minimum distributions after we get to be a certain age. They have to take a certain amount of money, but that's the minimum. You could always take more out of those accounts if you need to take care of yourself. And then I'd say tapping into the home equity is the last line of resources that we probably want to open up and use. There may be other public benefits that are available. A lot of older people were starting to get into that age of Vietnam era veterans that could be using service-connected or non-service connected VA pension claims. And certainly worth the ask if they've got military service time that would qualify them for benefits.
That's one of those things people don't think about too. And that can make a real difference. And I know that's something you all help try and identify. What are some of those pots of money where there may be some benefit? And people don't often know or think about that, right? Right.
So a lot of times people think that they have to be in combat or that they have to have been injured during their service time. And there are special provisions for military people that meet those criteria. That's service-connected disability. But there's a big pot of money for it at the government level, right? At the federal government, for non-service connected disability. And by non-service connected, that means the person is now aged into disability. They may be paying for care so that their care expenses are exceeding household income, and they've served during a period of war. They don't have to have served in combat, just during a recognized period of war. And the VA has a bright line resource line now. It's $130,000 or less in resources and a home, 2 acres or less. And so there really could be benefits, not just for that veteran, but for a surviving spouse.
For a surviving spouse too, yeah, that's important. All right, well, that kind of sets the table. I want to come back. I want to talk about several things. You know, the cost associated here of nursing home care, of the cost of just having someone come in your home and you know help. How do we pay for that? Because we're talking about huge numbers here. And
it's going up.
And I bet it's going up because everything's going up.
Yeah.
So I want to ask about the costs there and how we could maybe help pay for that. That, again, though, sets the table. If you have a question, if you have a situation, we'd love to hear from you. There's the number at the bottom of the screen, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We will take a break. Come back right after this.